The next country is India. The geography of India. India is the uh, seventh largest country in the world. The Lakshadweep Island of the southwest coast and the Andaman and Nicobar Island, 750 miles off the southeast coast in the Bay of Bengal, belong to India. India is the part of the continent of Asia. Most of India forms a peninsula, which means it surrounded by water on three sides. The world highest mountain range is makikita sa India, the Himalaya, rise in the north, and the south is bordered by the Bay of Bengal, and the south is bordered by the Arabian Sea. So the official name is Republic of India. But mostly is known siya sa mga India na Bharat. And the form of government is Federal Republic. Then the capital county is New Delhi, na mayroon silang 1,296,834,042 na population. At ang kanilang major rivers is Ganges, Yamuna, Indus, Brahmaputra. So, makikita natin sa mapa na uh, sa ang geographic location nito ng India is ang Asia, na may total area na 1,269,212 square miles at mayroong 3,287,263 square kilometers, na may land area na 1,143,950 square miles at may 2,193,193 square kilometers at may water area na 121,262 square miles at may 314,070 square kilometers, na may land boundaries na 8,763 miles at may 14,103 kilometers. May integrated land na 256,116 square miles at may 663,340 square kilometers at coastline 4,350 miles and 7,000 kilometers. And the highest point is 8,598 meters at highest point locations Kanchenjunga 8,598 meters. Then the lowest point locations India Ocean 0 meters. Borders countries of India is Bangladesh, Bhutan, Burma, China, Nepal, and Pakistan. Then terrain is upland plain, Deccan Plateau in the south, and flat to rolling plain along the Ganges, desert in the west, the Himalayas in the north. So, the natural resources of India is coal, fourth largest reserves in the world. Iron ore, manganese, mica, bauxite, rare earth elements, titanium ore, chromite, natural gas, diamonds, petroleum, limestone, arable, Then the latitude is 21.7679 north and longitude is 78.8718 S. So, economics of India. India is now the world's fifth largest economy when measured by GDP with USD 2.9 trillion USD or AUD 3.74 trillion GDP and USD is 6,284 or AUD is 9 1,093 GDP per capita in 2020. So, the economy of India has transitioned from a mixed planned economy to a mixed middle income developing social market economy with notable states participation in strategic sector and indicative planning. It is the world's fifth largest economy by yung sinabi ko nga by nominal GDP and the third largest by purchasing power parity or PPP. So according to the International Monetary Fund IMF, on a per capita income basis, India ranked 139 by GDP nominal and 127 by GDP PPP from interdependence in 1947 until 1991. Successive governments followed Soviet model and promoted protectionist economic policies with extensive Sovietization, states intervention, bureaucrat-driven enterprise, and economic regularization. So the first economics of India is agriculture. India is largely an agricultural society with a large population, depending on agricultural and allied industries for its livelihood and sustenance. So, India is the leading livestock country in the world. It ranks first in the cattle, including buffaloes population, second in goats, and fourth in the sheep of population. So, economics of India is, sa kanila, yung agriculture is sobrang importante. So, may mga sa video is makikita natin yung mga iba is nag-vlog sila kung paano kahalaga yung agriculture nila and makikita natin at yung mga nakapunta na ron is sinasabi na agriculture is sobrang importante na sa kanila lalo na sa farmers kasi kapag ikaw ay farmers sa India is mahal ka ng gobyerno kasi nagpapautang sila ng medisina, vitamins para sa hayop mo or para sa ah, para sa mga tanim mo or para sa agriculture mo. Kaya isa sa unang economics ng India is ang agriculture. The next is industries. The index of industrial production for the period April-November 2006 reveals a strong sustained growth of the India industry. The general index on industrial production shows a rise of 10 to 6% in the first 8 months of financial year and the corresponding period of the last financial year. The next is economics of India is automobiles. India is not only a huge market for passengers car sector, it also one of the major players is the global auto components business. The auto industry was worth 34 million US dollar in 2006, growing at a CAGR of 14% over the past 5 years. The total number of vehicles sold exceeds 9 million and expected to grow further. The next is auto components. So, isa sa mga naging economics sa India is yung mga like mga cars or most kan is yung ang mga parts ng sasakyan, yung engine parts, kung paano, ilang percent ito or ilang kung ilang kung gaano ito kalaki sa kanilang exports. The next is energy. Isa sa economics of economics sa India is energy na kung saan petroleum and natural gas sectors is estimated worth of 90 billion in India. It's India's crude refining capacity will increase from 127 MTPA to 141 MTPA by the end of 2007. So ah, sa kanila, sa energy is sobrang demand ng energy sa kanila. Kasi ito yung, nandito nga yan, it's, India oil companies have various regional and global tie-ups which assist to satisfy the ever-growing demand of energy in the India. Then the next is gems and jewelries. So ito nga, sa mga jewelries, India is the largest diamond cutting and polishing center in the world. So sa kanila is, uh, sa pagbili ng mga jewelries is, uh, mas, demand sa kanila ekonomiya kasi, ah, may belief sila or paniniwala sila about sa jewelry and gems. Kaya, isa sa naging economics, ay isa sa, malaking, malaki yung impact sa ekonomiya nila. Then next is the information technology na, so paggamit ng, sa paggamit ng mga internet, ito na yon yung paggamit ng, ah, Facebook sa nila, paggamit sa, nandito, India's prowess in the information technology sector has been proved time and again in the world market. Is expected that this sector would reach a figure of US 54 billion by year and with a cumulative annual growth rate. So ito nga is malaki yung, impact ng, yung impact ng, impact ng technology sa kanila since, naging advanced na rin yung paggamit ng kanilang, mga technology. And then, the next is media and entertainment. So, alam na natin yan na, isa sa in-demand rin ng kanila is yung media and entertainment na kung saan is, uh, over 2 million households, uh, ay nanonood ng kanilang TV or TV connection is therefore about half of them with an average household size of 4 to 5. The potential for advertiser is immense. So, malaki impact ng media entertainment sa, India dahil, ah, halos sa kanila is, nanonood na ng TV and, mas naengganyo na sa mga entertainment. The next, so India is a sovereign socialist secular democratic republic with a parliamentary form of government which is federal in structure with unitary features. There is a council of ministers with the prime ministers as its head to advise the president who is the constitutional head of the country. Similarly, in states there is a council of ministers with a chief ministers as its heads who advise the governor. This section provides insights of Indian governance and administration at the central, states as well as local level. So, and politics of India works within the framework of the country's constitution. India is a parliamentary secular democratic republic in which the president of India is the head of states and first citizen of India and the prime minister of India is the head of government. It is based on the federal structure of government although the word is not used in the constitution. So India follows the dual polity system. Example, federal in the nature that consists of the central authority at the center and states at the periphery. The Constitution defines the organizational powers and limitation of both central and states governments. It is well recognized fluid preamble of the Constitution being rigid and to decide further amendments to the Constitution and consider supreme example is the law of the nation must conform to it. So, there is a provision for a bicameral legislation consistent of upper house, the Rajya Sabha, known as Council of States, which represents the states of the India Federation, and a lower house, the Lok Sabha, House of the People, which represents the people of India as a whole. The Constitution provides for an independent judiciary which is headed by the Supreme Court. The court's mandate is to protect the Constitution, to settle disputes between the central governments and the states, to settle interstate disputes, to nullify any central or state's law that go against the Constitution, and to protect the fundamental rights of citizens, assuring rights of their informants and case of violation. So, mayroon tong alliance ang India sa government. Ito is, first is the National Democratic Alliance or NDA, and second is United Progressive Alliance. So, explain ko muna yung una is the National Democratic Alliance. So, the National Democratic Alliance is a right-wing coalition led by BGP, was formed in 1998 after the election. NDA, a form of government, although the government didn't last long as among Vidugo. Support from it resulted in 1999 general election in which NDA won and resumed power. The coalition government went to complete the full 5 years term, become the first non-Congress government to do so. In the 2014 general elections, National Democratic Alliance once again returned to power for the second time with a historic mandate of 336 out of 543 Lok Sabha seats. BGP itself won 286 seats, thereby electing Narendra Modi as the head of the government. And a historic win, the National Democratic Alliance stormed to power for the third term in 2019 with a combined strength of 353 seats, with the BGP itself winning an absolute majority with 303 seats. So next is United Progressive Alliance or UPA, is the centre-left coalition led by Indian National Congress or INC. This alliance was created after the 2004 general election, with the alliance forming the government. The alliance, even after losing some of its members, was re-elected in 2009 general election with Manmohan Singh as head of the government. The alliance has been in the opposition since the 2014 election, with the INC being the principal opposition party but without the official status of the leader of the opposition since they failed to win the minimum required seat. So, history of India. The history of India starts with the existence of India itself, and is located in the continent of Asia. India covers 2,973,193 square kilometers of land and 314,70 square kilometers of water, making it the seventh largest nation in the world with a total area of 3,287,263 square kilometers, surrounded by Bhutan, Nepal, and Bangladesh to the northeast, China to the north, Pakistan to the northwest, and Sri Lanka on the southeast coast. India is a land of ancient civilization. India's social, economics, and cultural configurations are the product of a long process of regional expansion. India history begins with the birth of the Indus Valley civilization in the coming of the Aryans. These two phases are usually discovered as the pre-Vedic and Vedic age. Hinduism arose in the Vedic period. The 15th century saw the unification of India under Ashoka, who had converted to Buddhism, and it is in his reign that Buddhism spread in many parts of Asia. In the 8th century, Islam came to India for the first time, and by the 11th century had firmly established itself in India as a political force. Its result in the formation of the Delhi Sultanate, which was finally succeeded by the Mughal Empire, under which India once again achieved a large measure of political utility. The next is ancient India history. So the history of India begins with the Indus Valley civilization and coming of the Aryans, and the earliest literacy source that sheds light on India past is the Rig Veda. It is difficult to date this work with any accuracy on the basis of tradition, and ambiguous astronomical information continue in the hymns. Indus Valley civilization, which flourished between 2800 BC and 1800 BC, had an advanced and flourishing economic system. The Indus Valley people practiced agriculture, domesticated animals, made tools and weapons from copper, bronze, and tin, and even traded with some Middle East countries. The next is history is the Indus Valley civilization. So along the Mesopotamian civilization and Egyptian civilization rose the Indus Valley civilization, spanning West India and modern-day Pakistan. The largest among the three civilization, the Indus Valley civilization, flourished around 2600 BC, at which time agriculture in India started flourishing. The fertile Indus Valley made it possible for agriculture to be carried out on the large scale. The most well-known towns of the India in today's date is Mohenjo-daro and Harappa. Unearthing these two towns showed excavators glimpse into the richness of the Indus Valley civilization, evidenced in rings and things like household articles, war weapons, gold and silver, ornament, and so on. The people of the Indus Valley civilization live in well-planned towns and well-designed houses made of big baked bricks. In an era of developments and prosperity, civilization unfortunately came to an end by around 1300 BC, mainly due to the natural calamities. The next is Vedic civilization. The next era that India saw was the Vedic civilization, flourishing along river Saraswati, named after the Vedas, which depict the early literature of the Hindus. The two greatest epics of this period were the Ramayana and Mahabharata, still held in great reverence by the followers in Hinduism. The next is the Buddhist era. Next came the Buddhist era during the time of the Napadas, which were the 16th great powers during the 7th and 6th century BC. Prominent powers of all time were Sakyas of Kapilavastu and the Lichavis of Byhasli. Buddha, whose original name was Siddhartha Gautam, was born in Lumbini near Kapilavastu and was the founder of Buddhism, a religion based on spiritualism. He died at the age of 80 and 40 480 BC, but his teachings spread throughout southern and western Asia and are followed across the world today. So the next is uh, the another history is the invasion of Alexander, the Gupta dynasty. So the president of the India. So the first president of the India is Rajendra Prasad, was an Indian politician, lawyer, journalist, and scholar who served as the first president of India from 1950 to 1962. The next is Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan, was an Indian politician, philosopher, and statesman who served as the second president of India. The next is Zakir Khan, was an Indian educationist and politician who served as the third president of India. The next is Barahagiri Giri, is was an Indian politician and activist who served as the fourth president of India. The next is Muhammad Hijayatullah, is he served he was an 11th Chief Justice of India, serving from 20 February 25, 1968 to December 16, 1970, and the sixth President of India, and serving and he also served as the acting President of India from 1969 to July 1969 until August 1969. Fakhruddin Ali Ahmed was an Indian lawyer and politician who served as the fifth president of India from 1974 to 1977. The next is Basapa Jati. He was a fifth Vice President of India and serving from 1974 to 1979. He was the acting President of India from February 1977, and he also served as the Chief Minister of Karnataka. The next is Neelam Reddy, was an Indian politician who served as the sixth President of India. The next is Gyani Singh. He is an Indian politician from Punjab who served as the seventh President of India. Next is Ramaswamy Venkataraman, was an Indian lawyer, Indian interdependence activist, and politician who served as the Union Minister and as the end President of India. The next is Shankar Sharma, Indian lawyer and politician from the states of Madhya Pradesh who served as the ninth President of the India. The next is Kroshil Raman Narayanan, was an Indian statesman, diplomat, academic, and politician who served as the ninth vice president of India and the 10th president of India. Abul Kalam is Indian aerospace scientist and statesman who served as the 11th president of the India. Then the Prat Patil Pratilba Patil Indian politician and lawyer who served as the 12th President of India. The next is Pranab Mukherjee, as an Indian politician and statesman who served as the 13th President of India from 2012 until 2017. The next is Ram Kovind, as a politician and lawyer who served as 14th President of India. The next is Draupadi Murmu, an Indian politician and former teacher, is serving as the 15th and current President of India since 2022. Gadhi and non-violent resistance of India. Gandhi, or known as Mahatma Gandhi. Gandhi is an Indian lawyer, politician, social activist, and writer who became the leader of the nationalist movement against British rule in India. His doctrine of non-violence protest and use of the religion principle of ahimsa as a tool of peaceful protest become the model for future social movements around the world. So, si Mahatma Gandhi is may ginawa siyang isang movement na kung saan is tinawag ito non-violent resistance or non-violent action. It's sometimes called civil resistance. That is practice of achieving goals such as a social change through symbolic protest, civil disobedience, economics and political non-cooperation, satyagraha, contractive program, and other methods while refraining from violence and threat of violence. This type of action highlights the desire of an individual or group that feels that something needs to change to improve the current condition of the resisting person of a movement. So, Gandhi's principles of nonviolence emphasize that violence is not a weapon for the weak, an accusation that is sometimes made by his opponents. Instead, nonviolence is a tool which should be used by everyone as the midst of hyperviolence, and the one who once possessed nonviolence and blessed. Gandhi raised nonviolent action from a religious principle to a level never before achieved, combining the principle of different beliefs to a common idea that has inspired heavyweights and non-violence category, including Martin Luther King Jr., Chavez, at iba pa. Brazil. Geography of Brazil. Brazil is the largest country in South America and the fifth largest nation in the world. It forms an enormous triangle on the eastern side of the continent with 4,500 miles. And it has a border with every South American country except Chile and Ecuador. So the Brazil landscape is very varied. It is most well known for its dense forests, including the Amazon, the world's largest jungle, in the north. But there are also dry grasslands called pampas, rugged hills, pine forests, sprawling wetlands, immense plateaus, and a long coastal plain. So, geography of Brazil is officially a Federative Republic of Brazil. Uh, the country of Brazil is a country of South America that occupies half the continent's landmass, and it is the fifth largest country in the world, exceeded in the size only by Russia, Canada, China, and the United States. Though its area is greater than that of the 48 contiguous US states. So Brazil faces so makikita natin sa mapa na ang Brazil is faces the Atlantic Ocean. uh, along 4,600 miles of coastline and shares more than 9,750 miles of inland borders with every South American country. So, makikita natin sa mapa na ang geographic location ng Brazil is South America na may total area na 3,287,590 per square miles at may 8,514,877 square kilometers at ang kanyang land area is 3,266,181 square miles at 8,459,417 square kilometers. Ang kanyang water area is 21,413 square miles at 55,460 square kilometers. Boundaries is 10,492 miles and 16,885 kilometers. Irrigated land 20,849 square miles and 54,000 square kilometers. Coastline is 4,655 miles and 7,491 kilometers. At ang kanyang highest point is 2,994 points 2,994 meters. Highest point location is Pico da Niebla na may 2,994 meters. The lowest point location is Atlantic Ocean, 0 meter. Then, ang kanyang border countries, makikita natin sa mapa na Argentina, Bolivia, Colombia, French Guiana, Guyana, Paraguay, Peru, Suriname, Uruguay, Venezuela. At ang kanyang terrain is mostly flat to rolling lowlands in the north, some plains, hills, mountains, and narrow coastal belt. Natural resources: bauxite, gold, iron ore, manganese, nickel, phosphates, platinum, tin, rare earth element, uranium, petroleum, hydropower, timber. The latitude is negative 14, 14, 24.26 south and longitude is negative 53, 10, 49, 81 west. Economics of Brazil. So the United States economic freedom score is 70.6, making its economy the 25th freeze in the 2023 index. So the world rank is 127 ang Brazil at ang kanyang regional rank is 26. But economic freedom status niya is mostly unfree. Katulad sa South Africa na mostly unfree rin sila. Then, makikita natin sa chart na from 2018 na 51.4 is tumaas siya. Ngayong 2023 na 53.5. And my population, ang Brazil na 214 million at may unemployment na 13.9% at ang inflation is 8.3%. Then makikita rin sa kanila natin ang regional average and world average na tumaas siya from 58.6 to 59.3. So the US So, the Brazil is tumaas yung status niya from 2018. Then, the next is the economics of Brazil. So, my role of law and government size, regulatory efficiencies, and open markets. So, una natin is ano nga ba yung role of law sa Brazil? The overall law of law is weak in Brazil. The country's property rights scores is below the world average. Its judicial effectiveness score is above the world's average, and its government integrity scores is below the world average. And the government size, the top individual and corporate tax rates are respectively 27.5% and 34%. The tax burden equals 31.6% of GDP. 3-year government spending and budget balance average are respectively 38.7% and negative 7.9% of GDP. Then the regulatory efficiencies, despite some progress, the organization of new investment and production remains a cumbersome and bureaucratic process. Launching or closing a business is both costly and time consuming. Then the open markets, the trade rate average tariff rate is 10.0%, and more than 6,000 non-tariff measures are in force. Foreign investment face bureaucratic hurdles. The financial sector is competitive, but state involvement remains considerable, and public bonds account for over 50% of loans to the private sector. So another economics of Brazil is the resources. So Brazil has some of the world's most abundant renewable and non-renewable sources. Most of the country's proved minerals reserves, agriculturally productive land, and other sources of wealth have been exploited in the south, east, and south. The country's economic heartland, however, the regions have been growing in prominence. Improved transportation has made more of this resource accessible either for export for us by Brazil, burgeoning industries and growing population. The next is minerals of Brazil. So, sa Brazil is isa sa pangunahing mayaman sila sa produkto is ang minerals. Brazil contains extremely rich minerals reserves that are only part, partly exploited, including iron, ore, tin, copper, bauxite. There are also significant amount of granite, manganese, asbestos, gold, gemstones, and others. The next is biological resources. So, uh, forest covers about 3/5 of Brazil land's area, representing between 1/6 and 1/7 of the world forest coverage. Hardwoods predominate in the Amazon and Atlantic coastal zone. Only a small portion of Brazil annual timber harvest comes from Amazon basin, but loggers are increasingly exploiting the region forests as additional roads are built and settled grow. The next is hydroelectric resources. Brazil, which is extensive river system and plentiful rainfall, has one of the largest electric potential in the world, and most of its hydroelectric dams are concentrated in the southeast and the south, the areas that consume the vast majority of power in Brazil. Among the rivers harnessed in that area are the Iguacu, Tiete, Paranapanema, Paranaiba Grande, and upper reaches of Sao Francisco, and others. Politics of Brazil. Is Brazil a democracy? Brazil is the democracy with a presidential and federal system of government. Its current constitution provides strong protection for civil liberties. It also guarantees many rights, including to employment, childcare, and health care. These there is an independent judiciary, media, and central bank, and the country has seen a peaceful transition of power since it became a democracy in 1985. So, the main problem of Brazil and the politics is the corruption. So, corruption is also a persistent problem in uh, Brazilian politics. Justice is slow due to the constitutional amendment that allows any cases to be appealed to the Supreme Court and overburned judicial operation. And one was an investigation that exposed corruption in state-owned oil firm, Petrobras, and contracting companies was the Operation Car Wash from 2014 to 2019. The prosecution led by the Judge Sergio Moro saw former Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva jailed for accepting service from companies involved in the scandal. What kind of democracy is Brazil? Brazil has a US-style presidential system with power divided between the executive, the president, the legislator, the National Congress. The National Congress has two houses, the Chamber of Deputies, whose members are elected on 4-year term, and the Senate with members elected on 8-year terms. As in the US, individual states have their own considerable autonomy. So, participatory democracy in Brazil. Some Brazilian cities become renowned for of their efforts to deliver more participatory democracy. The intent was to give citizens direct control of decision making and allocation of funds and government. History of Brazil. The history of Brazil. First is early history of Brazil. As with many South American countries, the history of Brazil begins with indigenous people and dates back over 10,000 years. The first inhabitants of Brazil were native indigenous Indians, and Portuguese who lived mainly on the coast and alongside rivers and tribes. But very little is known about the history of Brazil before the arrival of the Portuguese in 1015, as the tribes intended to be semi-nomadic with no permanent buildings and no writing records. The next history is Portuguese arrival and settlement. The Portuguese fleet under the command of Pedro Alvarez Cabral arrived on April 1500, claiming Brazil for Portugal. Up until this time, Portugal has shown little interest in Brazil or the large Brazil wood tree that was Brazil's major exports. From the 16th century, sugarcane plantations along the northeast coast become an important part of the country economy. The Portuguese tried to use the native indigenous people as slaves to produce sugar for Europe, but in the end they resort to bringing in slaves from Africa. The first permanent Portuguese settled was established at São Vicente in 1532. Salvador was founded by the Portuguese in 1549 as the first capital of Brazil, and it became a major port for slaves and sugar cane. The next is his discovery of gold. Gold was discovered in Brazil in the beginning of the 18th century, resulting in a huge influx of European immigrants. The region known as Minas Gerais became the center of Brazil. Gold mining and slaves were again used as the workforce. Deposits of diamonds were also discovered in 1729 in the region now known as Diamantina, now as UNESCO listed World heritage sites. The next is Brazil interdependence. From 1808, the Portuguese king ruled his vast empire from Rio de Janeiro. 15 years later, after the independence war, Brazil ceased to be a Portuguese colony, declaring interdependence from Portugal in 1822 and becoming the Empire of Brazil. Pedro the First ruled until his abdication in 1831 when he fled behind his 5-year-old son Emperor Pedro II. Years of rebellion ensues. The first Brazilian Republic was established in 1889 after a military coup and ousting of Pedro II. The county name was named of the Republic of the United States of Brazil, changing again in 1967 to the Federative Republic of Brazil. So the another historical events, Brazil abolished slavery in 1888, the last country in the Western world to do so, after an estimated 4 to 5 million African slaves had been imported. Coffee was introduced to Brazil in 1720, and by the mid-18s, Brazil was responsible for half of the world's coffee production. 1880 to 1920 saw a rubber boom in the Amazon and resulted in the transformation of the village of Manaus into a cosmopolitan center compete with the ornate theater. The next is President of the Brazil. First is Manuel da Fonseca, was a Brazilian politician and military officer who served as the first president of Brazil. The next is Floriano Peixoto, the second president of Brazil. Peixoto was an army marshal when elected vice president in 1891. The next is Manuel de Fonseca. Again, he is a Brazilian politician and military officer who served as the uh, first and third first and third president. The next is Manuel Sales, a Brazilian lawyer, a coffee farmer, and politician who served as the fourth president of Brazil. The next is Francisco Alves, was a Brazilian politician who first served as a president of the province of Sao Paulo, and he is a fifth president of the Brazil. The next is Afonso, was a Brazilian lawyer, professor, and politician who served as the sixth president of Brazil. The next is Nilo Picanha, was a Brazilian politician who served as the seventh president of Brazil. The next is Hermes Fonseca, was a Brazilian field marshal and politician who served as the eighth president of Brazil. The next is Venceslau Gomes, was a Brazilian politician who served as the ninth president of Brazil. The next is Delfim Ribeiro, was a Brazilian politician who served as the 10th president of Brazil. The next is Epitácio Silva Pessoa, was a Brazilian politician and jurist who served as a president of Brazil between 1919 and 1922. The next is Arthur da Silva Bernardes, was a Brazilian politician who served as 12th president of Brazil during the first Brazilian Republic. The next is Washington Souza, was a Brazilian politician who served as the 13th president of the Brazil. The next is Getulio Vargas, was a Brazilian lawyer and politician who served as the 14th and 17th president of Brazil. The next is Jose Linhares, was a Brazilian lawyer who briefly served as the interim president of Brazil in the final months of Vargas' regime. The next is Eurico Dutra, was an Brazilian military leader and politician who served as the 16th president of Brazil. João Campos Filho was a Brazilian politician who served as the 18th president of the Brazil. The next is Pascual Mazzilli, a Brazilian politician who served as the federal deputy from 1951 to 1967 and a president of the Chamber of Deputies Speaker. Next is João Goulart, commonly known Django, was a Brazilian politician who served as a 24th president of the Brazil. The next is Carlos Da Luz, was a Brazilian politician, lawyer, teacher, and journalist who served as an acting president of Brazil. The next is Nereu Ramos, was a Brazilian political figure. He briefly served as interim president of Brazil in the aftermath of the political crisis. The next is Juscelio Oliveira, also known his initial JK, was a prominent Brazilian politician who served as the 21st president of Brazil. The next is Janio da Silva Quadros, was a Brazilian lawyer and politician who served as the second 22nd president of Brazil. The next is Marshal Branco. He was a Brazilian military leader and politician. He served as the first president of the Brazilian military dictatorship and after the 1964. The next is Arthur Silva, was a Brazilian army marshal and the second president of the Brazilian military government that came to power. The next is Emilio Medici, was a Brazilian military leader and politician who was the president of Brazil. The next is Esther Geisel, was a Brazilian army officer and politician who was president of Brazil from 1974 to 1979. The next is Jose Costa, is a Brazilian politician, lawyer, and writer who served as 31st president of Brazil. The next is João Figueiredo, was a Brazilian military leader and politician who was the 13th president of Brazil. The next is Fernando Milo, was a Brazilian politician who served as the 32nd president of Brazil. The next is Alois da Silva. He is a Brazilian politician who is the 39th and current president of Brazil. A member of Workers' Party, he previously served as the 35th president of Brazil from 2003 to 2010. Landless Workers Movement of Brazil. So, civil society and social movements. Landless Workers Movement or MST. Brazilian social movement seeking agrarian reform through land exploration. The Landless Workers Movement, Movimento dos Trabalhadores Rurais Sem Terra or MST is one of the largest and most influential social movements in Latin America. Thousands of Brazilian families live in its land occupation settlements in an effort to redistribute land to rural workers for small-scale farming. Ideologically, the movement is influenced by Marxism and liberalization theology, and those emphasize equality. The transformation of capitalist society, sustainable agriculture, cooperativism, and protection of the environment. So, Landis Workers Movement or MST was officially founded in 1984 at Cascavel in the southern Brazilian states of Paraná. Although its roots go back to the peasant uprising and the organizational activities of progressive wing of the Roman Catholic Church before and during the military dictatorship of the 1960s. As of 2014, the movement has led more than 2,500 land occupations with about 370,000 families, has won nearly 18.75 million acres, 75 million hectares of land as a result of their direct action. The next country is Poland. Geography of Poland. Poland is located at the heart of the European continent. The country is meeting place not only for cultures and ideas but also for conflicts and station. Poland borders also have changed many times over the centuries. Its present borders were set after World War II ended in 1945. Poland has seven neighbors: Germany, Slovakia, the Czech Republic, Lithuania, Belarus, Ukraine, and Russia. Poland has a variety of striking landscape from the sandy beaches of the Baltic Sea coast in the north and the rolling central lowlands to the snow-capped peaks of the Carpathian and Sudeten Mountains in the south. So, Poland has more than 1,300 lakes throughout the country. So, the official name of Poland is Republic of Poland, and the form of government of Poland is the Republic, and the capital city is Warsaw. It has a 38 million population, and the major mountain ranges is Carpatanias, Sudetens, and the major rivers is Bistola and Oder. So, makikita natin sa mapa na the geographic location of Poland is the Europe. May total area siya na 120,728 square miles at may 300,112,685 square kilometers at may land area na 117,473 square miles and 304,255 square kilometers. Water area is 3,255 square miles and 8,430 square kilometers. Land boundaries 1,893 miles and 3,047 kilometers. Irrigated land is 447 square miles and 1,157 square kilometers. The coastline is 273 miles and 440 kilometers. The highest points the highest point is 2,499 meters. Highest point location is rise size. The lowest point is negative 2 meters. Borders country is Belarus, Czech Republic, Germany, Lithuania, Russia, Slovakia, Ukraine. The terrain is mostly flat so makikita natin sa mapa is mostly flat plain mountains along southern border. Lowest point location is near Rakzi Elbasli. The natural resources is coal, sulfur, copper, natural gas, silver, lead, salt, amber, arable land. The latitude is 51.9194 north and longitude is 19.1451. Economics of Poland. Poland economic freedom score is 67.7, making its economy the 40th freeze in the 2023 index. Its score is 1.0 points lower than last year. Poland is ranked 23rd out of 44 countries in the European region, and its overall score is above the world average. So, makikita natin no, nasa 40th world rank ang Poland, and regional rank is 23. Then, the economic freedom status is moderately free. So, makikita natin sa chart na maliit lang yung binaba niya from 2018 to 2023 na 60 noong 2018 is 68.5, then bumaba siya ng maliit no ngayong 2023 na 67.7, at may population siya na 37.8 million, and ang employment is 3.2%. So, mababa lang. And inflation is 5.1%. Then, makikita rin natin sa isang chart na malaki yung tinaas niya from world average na 59.3 to 68.2 regional average. So, 67.7 yung total scores niya on the freedom. So, economics Poland. So, kung ang ibang country is mayroong role of land government size regulatory open, so meron rin ang Poland. First is role of law. So, dito natin malalaman kung ano ang role of law ng Poland. So, the overall rule of law is relatively well respected in Poland. The country's property rights scores is above the world average. Its judicial effectiveness scores is above the world average, and its government integrity scores is above the world average. Then the next is government size. The top individual and corporate tax rates are respectively 32% and 19%. The tax burden equals 36.0% of GDP. Then the next is regulatory efficiency. Measures have been taken to further streamline business startup procedures and facilitate private sector's development, but the pace of reform has slowed. Then the open markets, the trade weight average tariff rate common among EU members is 32% and more than 600 EU mandate non-tariff measures are in force. The economics of Poland is first is the agriculture, forestry, and fishing. The next is the minerals. The next is the energy. And the next is manufacturing. Next is railways, waterways, air transport, telecommunication. Yun yung mga economics of Poland. Politics of Poland. Politics of Poland. Poland, the government of Poland takes the form of a unitary parliamentary representative democratic republic, whereby the president is the head of states and the prime minister is the head of government. However, its forms of government has also been identified as semi-presidential. So, um, may the politics of Poland, there is executive power, legislative power, and the president as head of the state. So magkaiba yung executive power at sa executive branch or legislative power or legislative branch. So first, explain ko muna what is executive power is exercised within the framework of a multi-party system by the president and the government, which consists of the council of ministers led by the prime minister. Its members are typically chosen from the majority party or coalition in the lower house of parliament, the CGIM. Although exemption to this role are not uncommon, the government is formally announced by the president and must pass a motion of confidence in the CGIM within the 2 weeks. The next is legislative power, as vested in the two chambers of parliament, CGIM and Senate. Members of CGIM are elected by proportional presentation with the proviso that non-ethnic minority parties must gain at least 5% of the national vote to enter the lower house. Currently, 5 parties are presented. Parliamentary election occur at last every 4 years. The next is the president as the head of state. As the supreme commander of the armed force, has the power to veto legislation passed by parliament, which may be overridden by majority of 3/5 and can dissolve the parliament under certain conditions. Presidential elects occur every 5 years. When a majority of votes supports the same candidate, that candidate is declared the winner, while when there is no majority, the top two candidates participate in a runoff election. The next is executive branch. The prime minister proposes, the president appoints, and the Sujim approves the council of ministers. The president is elected by popular vote for a 5 year term, and while the prime minister and deputy prime minister are appointed by the president and confirmed by the CGIM. The council of ministers is responsible to the prime minister and the CGIM. Legislative branch, the Polish parliament has two chambers. The lower chamber, CGIM, has 460 members elected for a 4 year term by proportional presentation in a multi-seat constituents using the D'Hondt method, similar to that used in many parliamentary political systems with a 5% threshold and 8% for coalitions threshold wave for national minorities. The Senate or Senate has 100 members elected for a year term under the single member one around past the post boosting method. Then the judicial branch together with the tribunals, courts form part the judiciary and Poland among the bodies that administer the justice system that are following distinguished Supreme Court, Common Courts, Administrative Courts, Military Courts. The next is judges. Judges are appointed by the President and the request for the National Council of the Judiciary for an indefinite period. They cannot belong to a political parties or trade unions, are independent, and are subjective only to the Constitution and statutes. They are entitled to immunity and personal inviolability. Supreme Courts and Brazil Supreme Courts is a supervisory body over common and military courts. It is headed by the first president of the Supreme Court, appointed for a 6 year term by the President of the Republic of Poland from among candidates presented by the General Assembly of Supreme Court of Justice. Then, the next is Common Judiciary. The Common Judiciary has 3 tiers. Its structure consists of district, regional, and appellate courts. Common courts role on criminal, civil, labor, economic, family law. Until 2000, there were also misdemeanor colleges but the Constitution abolished their function. The next is judiciary. Military courts are criminal courts, ruling primarily on crimes committed by soldiers on active military service. The structure of the judiciary is made up garrison courts and military distinct courts. The next is National Council of the Judiciary. The National Council of the Judiciary is a body established to protect the independence of courts and judges. He submits application to the President to appoint judges. It has right to apply the constitutional tribunal in matters relating to the compliance of normative acts with the Constitution in the area relating to the judiciary. History of Poland. A brief history of Poland, 966 Christianization, 1025 Kingdom of Poland, 1569 Polish Lithuanian Commonwealth, 1795 Partition of Poland, 1807 Duchy, Duchy of Warsaw, 1815 Congress of Poland, 1918 Reconstitution of Poland, 1939 Invasion of Poland, World War II, 1945 Communist Poland, 1989 Republic of Poland. The president of the Poland is Wojciech Jaruzelski. He was a Polish military general, politician, and de facto leader of the Polish People's Republic, and he was the first secretary in the Polish United Workers, and he is president of Poland. He is the first president of the Poland. The next is Lech Walesa. He is a Polish statesman, dissident, Nobel Peace Prize laureate, who served as the president of Poland between 1990 to 1995. The next is Aleksander Kwanisowski. He served as the president of Poland from 1995 to 2005. He was the active in the Socialist Union of Polish Students and was the minister for sports in the communist government during 1980s. Next is Lech Alexander Kaczynski, was a Polish politician who served as the city mayor of Warsaw and from 2002 until 2005 and as the president of Poland. The next is Bronislaw Maria Komorowski. Komorowski served as a Minister of Defense from 2002 to 2001. Komorowski was the governing Civic Platform Party's candidate in the Southern presidential election, which he won in the second round of voting on July 4, 2010, and he became a president of Poland. He is a Polish politician and historian. Served the Brazil, then Andrzej Duda, a Polish lawyer and politician who has served as a president of Poland since 2015. Before became president, Duda was a member of Polish lower house or Sejm. Solidarity Movement of Poland. Solidarity was a trade union and anti-communist movement which arose in Poland to oppose the rule of the communist Polish regime. The group was led by Lech Walesa, an electrician turned unionizer. Ultimately, Solidarity was instrumental in bringing democracy and liberal governments to Poland after decades of authoritarian rule in the country. The transformation of Solidarity into a social movement or Solidarność is known in a Portuguese, gained power and transformed itself from a trade union to a social movement with almost 10 million workers, intellectuals, and young people. They voluntarily joined the union and sub-organization which include the Independent Student Union, Rural Solidarity, Independent Farmers Trade Union. A history has taught us that there is no bread without freedom. What we had in mind was only bread, butter, and sausage, but also justice, democracy, truth, legality, human dignity, freedom, and convictions, and were the repair of the Republic, the Solidarity Movement's program underlined. Members of the Solidarity Movements use peaceful means of protest, strikes, and mass rallies as tool to achieve their aims of and freedom. And that's all. Thank you.